What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Bev Boys, your one-stop shop for all your energy drink reviews and, of course, your performance talks. I'm Brian,
I'm Christian.
and we are the Bev Boys. Very clearly, we have some different surroundings in this time. I'm at the other office, as you can see, and Christian appears to be not in the office, but instead
In
in a
my bedroom.
box.
Yep. In my bedroom, aka, yep, it's pretty small.
What's going on with the
Yeah.
smoke detector?
Yeah, so the battery was dead, so naturally it was beeping. So naturally I
Just
had
take
to
it out.
take the battery out so it doesn't beep during our episode. I was trying to go to bed last night and I was like, what the hell is that keeping me up? So I risked being burned down by a fire last night in order to get some good sleep. Paid off.
Legendary.
Yep.
Legendary.
So now the key is to remember to put a battery in it so I don't have to risk my life every night. Or maybe I like to live on the edge.
I was gonna
So
make a joke. I'm gonna leave it.
no, it's okay. Yeah. I will say to start off this episode, I feel like every time for like the last 2 years, daylight savings time, I feel like it's weird because
Less
both the
sleep.
places I end up living in have not done daylight savings time. Obviously, the DR did not do daylight savings time, and then I happen to be living in the one state, Arizona, where they do not do daylight savings time. And I feel like it always comes back, and we're like, all right, yeah, we'll record same time tomorrow, and then we forget. We're like today we're 3 hours apart at this point in
Yeah.
time, which kind of stinks, but only a few more weeks. I'll be back in the old central. So
Living large and in charge in Iowa.
that's right. So let's go ahead and go over the drinks.
I was gonna say.
I'll go first. I think I got one that we may or may have not done. We've definitely both had this flavor. But I got the Gorilla Mind White Frost. Shout out to Kevin Poppy, our head Major League S&C coach with the Cubs. He came through. He's a homie. He bought like 3 or 4 12-packs of Gorilla Mind for us just for the office. So he's definitely a bet boy. And he bought a bunch of Gorilla Mind. So yeah, we've been crushing these. I'm gonna get to it. This is kind of their take on the white monster flavor. It's a white frost, not quite as good, but honestly, like I remember it. I remember not liking it as much, and now that I have been drinking them, I honestly
It's
like
like
them a
grown
little
on
bit
you.
more. It's grown on me a little bit. Obviously, it helps, but they're free. But the indoctrination process of convincing people to buy energy drinks for the office is slowly working. So, what are you working with, Brian?
We've been talking about Rise for a little bit here, and I have a great one today. I got the Rise root beer float.
Oh,
Going over the can, obviously, looks sick. I love like the cartoon kind of like root beer floats on the side. Rise has a great logo. Of course, we've always talked about like sleeper energy formula, 250 milligrams of cognizin, 200 milligrams of caffeine, 100 milligrams of L-theanine. Have the nootropics in there. You stay a little bit more like leveled out with the caffeine that comes through. You're not like a big spike and then crash later. 5 calories, it's just one carbohydrate. Get 100 micrograms of huperzine A as well, so that's incredible. And then 500 milligrams of L-carnitine. So, I mean, all in all, like a very potent energy formula. We've talked them up time and time again the past couple of weeks. Had a couple different flavors. You know, we did the sour punch straws. We did I think a little bit ago we had like their like 8 grams of protein in that energy drink, the Kool-Aid flavor and the cherry limeade. The Kool-Aid flavors themselves, we obviously you had the grape. I've had the tropical punch. Incredible.
yep.
Root beer is a flavor that is known and loved in this show. This is root beer float. Now, full disclosure, I crushed one of these yesterday.
What were
I
you
couldn't wait.
doing when you were crushing it?
I have some trees in my backyard, and I just borrowed my girlfriend's dad's chainsaw, and I was just cutting down trees. So like my legs are just sliced up from branches hitting them and everything. But had to go super high tea homeowner and smash energy drinks and hold chainsaws.
That is high tea.
But should we do this
Should we
thing
pop that top?
and talk some shop?
That's right. Oof. Got a little splashage on my end.
I got no splasage, but I have like vapor. It's so hard to see on the camera. Got to get some HD 4K something. But the
I
vapor
know.
rolled off and down the side of the can.
Oh, need that instant replay.
That is so good. That is so good. Mm. Mainly for the reason of it is it is root beer to a tea with like extra vanilla.
I like that.
It's like mug root beer too. Like that's the flavor. It's like mug root beer.
Yeah, mug root beer, a Bargs root beer.
A Barks is really good. A&W can be hit or miss sometimes. I feel like
Yep,
A&W at an A&W, which I don't know if they exist anymore.
they're
But
they're around here and there. They actually had one of those in the town I went to college.
oh really?
Like, yeah, Indianola, Iowa.
The
Strange.
other the other one that's just incredible is the Diet root beer from Culver's.
Mm.
Big
Is that
fan.
like that's like their own? That's like their own like house made
Yeah, and
brand. Okay.
it slaps.
Yeah, A&W's like. Why do I feel like they're always like in the same building as like a Long John Silver's now?
I think they're owned by Long John Silver's.
Yeah, weird combo. Not a fan of Long John Silver's. Like fish and fast food to me are just like two things that usually don't go together very
The
well.
only thing that like I will rip the like the cod fillet at like Culver's is good, but then like a fillet of fish. I'm gonna get a
Yeah,
fillet of fish for sure. Like I'm gonna get one of those.
yeah. I will say like the fish at Culver's is a little bit better. I feel like Culver's is like pretty good fast food. Like not
Like
good
higher
for you,
quality.
obviously.
Yeah,
Definitely
it's
not
a
good
higher
for
tier
you.
of quality though.
Yeah, and it's a little bit more pricier, but it's worth it.
I'll pay the extra $3 on my total meal for something
Yeah,
insurmountably better.
100%.
Um, but yeah, I mean, we got a couple good topics today. You know, I saw some of the things that you kind of put together. The first one I think is probably the most important out of for so many people to understand, and that's like education and strength and conditioning. Like, what do you actually learn from of the like from school, from the conventional path of education? I think that is something that is so overstated of the value and importance of a conventional education versus like what you're actually getting. And how many, in reality, how many undergrads or even master's programs are in strength and conditioning and what is actually applicable from that. There's so many exercise science degrees where it's like, okay, like you understand the sliding filament theory, you understand, bioenergetics, but you don't really get what it is that you are going to be doing. That's such a forgotten piece. Whereas like the on the job or the I don't want to say like the mentorships, but the internships, the mentorships, the extra education, that's like gonna help you become a better coach. And I could probably go on like another like 5 to 10 minute rant about this, but I want to hear like what you're thinking before I like just hijack this conversation.
Yeah, to me it's interesting too because most of us, speaking from my perspective, most of us don't pick a school. One, do we even know what we're looking for when we're 18 years old? Probably not. Like if you played sports or were able to play like athletics in college, you probably optimized for that and like didn't really look too far into like the academic side. And also like, is there really that big of a difference between this school and that school? Like I'm not convinced that like Ivy League schools are really that much better than like regular schools. I think it's just kind of the status and prestige. Obviously, it's easy for me to be a hater as someone who didn't go to an Ivy League school, but I would just be curious to because right every school that gets like accreditation has to fulfill somewhat of the same requirements in terms of like taking certain classes that fill certain requirements to like reward a degree in that field. So it's that you don't really know like what a lot of people don't really know what they want to do, or like, they think they know what they want to do, but they're not really sure of it when they pick a college. You're young, you're not, you're not fully mature. You're probably not thinking that far into the future. And I think a lot of people, they just don't think about that stuff that far in advance. So that's one. Two, you made a good point. I think in it's tough because it's required in the field to have at least a bachelor's degree, and now it's specifically you need to have a bachelor's degree, or it's going to be that within the next few years. It's specifically within like a related field, so you can't just get like a business degree and take the CSCS. That could be a good or a bad thing depending on how you look at it. But it's tough because I think we all like intuitively know that it's good to learn, and like learning like base principles about whatever your field is important. But unless you're planning on staying like in academia and like teaching, like that education, in my opinion, is probably falls a little short unless you're doing like an internship as part of your curriculum. Now, I think there's probably some schools out there that are doing it better than others, but at the end of the day, like for in my situation, for example, where I went to school, it's a small school. Like our exercise science department was like 3 faculty members, and we had to kind of cater to a multitude of different like tracks and pathways. So like like the people that wanted to be physical therapists and strength and conditioning coaches and phys ed teachers, they're all doing the same degree and just may have slightly like 1 or 2 classes are different, or really like you might take a different internship or something like that. It's tough to cater specifically to strength and conditioning, which is more of a niche in and of itself when the school is smaller. Now, I think when you get to like a bigger school, or when you get to like maybe even like a graduate program, you can kind of specialize a little bit more. But I would say those are a little bit more few and far between. Probably becoming a little bit more popular nowadays, but they're a little bit few and far between. It's just tough because the science, like you can know all the science and still not know anything about like what it is to actually coach, as we're talking from like a strength coach perspective. It's just so far removed. I do think that it gets shit on a little bit too much. Like it's just worthless. I think you get things out of school that people don't really think about. Like I think it does teach you to like show up consistently, even if it's like not something that you really enjoy. Like I know like most places, like you can't just be absent every class and then sit for the final. That's not usually how it works. So I think it does teach you skills about like showing up consistently, having to be like diligent, having to manage your time, especially if you have these things outside of class that you're having to deal with, like athletics, extracurriculars. I think that's one kind of like hidden benefit is that. And then I think like the people you meet is obviously another big one. I think a lot of probably curriculums are probably pretty similar. It's mostly, I think the professors probably make the biggest difference, and obviously like the resources of the school. Like if you have access to like nicer technology or nicer equipment, or if you have like a nice like lab, or if you don't. Um, that's kind of my initial take is like you get something out of it, but it's more general. It's more general. It's not as specific as you would want it to be, and that's where like the internship model has kind of like grown into S&C and kind of become like the necessary component of actually learning about what it's like to be an S&C coach and what it's like to operate in that space.
Yeah, it's the education. It's like the conventional education in like a 4 year degree. I think there's a lot of like misconceptions of what it is and what it should be. So many kids still, I think we've kind of reverted back. Like we can tell a lot of times, like with internships, kids don't want to do internships right now because they think they're gonna. It's kind of like back to the old thing where they have this unreal expectation of I'm gonna get a 4 year degree, I'm gonna get this certification, and I'm gonna have whatever job I want because there's people waiting for me at the door, and that's not the case. Like they don't bring value to the organization that they could potentially be hired at, and I think that makes it really tough for a lot of the times. The other aspect being like a lot of maybe you take one S&C class. Like I know like during my kinesiology degree in undergrad, I took one strength and conditioning class. that's not going to prepare me to be like that's my entire career. That's the career. How are you going to boil it down to one semester long class, right? You know, yes, you get the fundamental understanding of exercise sciences, and like I said, you have the physiology, the bioenergetics, the anatomy, the biomechanics. Those are great fundamental understandings, but calling a spade, they are fundamental understandings of the prerequisite knowledge, not the applicable, not like how to actually implement those within a program or the administrative side of a program, the leadership aspect, the person to person, peer to peer coaching, like all these different aspects that are just not touched on. I think that's my biggest problem with a lot of like the education system. And now with it being so expensive, it's just this impossible task. You start to weigh, is it worth it anymore? Because I think you're right, it does serve a good purpose and it's like more general. And you have to go to a class that you don't want to do. You're gonna do shit you don't want to do. You're going to have to do something that your heart's not into because it's necessary to get to the stuff that you want to do. You're going to have to probably work with people that you would never ideally work with or never pick them out of a crowd to work with. You may have a boss or in this sense a professor that just doesn't like you. All these like certain things that like kind of set you up as a life experience in order to get better and be more prepared for that. But the specific task knowledge, it's almost like you would have like in an ideal world, you have 1 year where it's almost like you work as a trade school, where that senior year is now a fellowship instead of classwork. I think that would be more applicable, where it's not just like a forced internship, but like the whole year is a fellow of, hey, you're almost like a mini graduate assistantship where you're going to spend that time, whether it be with your school in an ideal world, because you can figure that out. You're on campus, you don't have to leave, blah, 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 whatever it is, but make a little bit of money. It doesn't have to be a ton, but you're going to learn, you're going to work, and you're going to have real applicable experience, right? And then we talk about like the master's degrees. How much of that is really applicable? How many people just kind of like go through it to say they got through it? A lot of them are online. Are they absorbing the knowledge? Do they have hands-on application of the knowledge that they're using? And again, is it as specific as you'd like it to be? Different schools, different strokes, different folks, all that kind of shit. Like, it's not going to always be the most applicable thing in order to be beneficial 100% of the time. You know, uh, the internship model, the graduate assistantship model, I think is where the most value is. So they can do the conventional education while getting the specific task knowledge. I think that's super important. And not enough people, I think, go that route in order to progress this. And this is coming from literally two people who, I mean, we did the internship stuff, but neither of us GA'd, you know, we just got lucky. And I personally want to say like we were lucky in the fact of, hey, 1 or 2 internships, get a part-time role. Like that is not the normative, like n does not equal 1, man. Like
100%. I agree. Yeah, I think like if you've ever read the book Mastery by Robert Greene, like the old school like apprenticeship model, I think would fit really well. Because really, like S&C is more of a trade than it is like. I mean, it's just a trade. Like, think if it would be like more of like a trade school structure where like you just work. I mean, back in the medieval times, the apprenticeship was like whatever, like 7 to 11 years, where essentially you would start when you were, a teenager, and you would work under like someone who had mastered that craft, whether it be like welding or whatever it was, and you would work under that person for like 7+ years. And maybe it doesn't have to be that long for like S&C, but I think that would be like an ideal scenario where you're essentially learning from someone who would probably have to have like another like certification process for this, but someone who's been in the field for a while, someone who kind of like knows what they're doing, is willing to teach you. Ideally that would be paid like enough where it would make it seem like it's a worthwhile thing, because people like face it, like we can't work for like probably 7 years without getting paid. unless we're like super young. It's just probably not as practical in today's world. But like, if we could pay people enough to do that, and then, I mean, essentially that should kind of be the model of it. How different is that from the model of like if you're like a part-time assistant and then like an assistant? But I don't think people like a and then to a full-time assistant. I don't think people look at it that way because once they get that first, like once you get a full-time job, it's
You think
easy
you've made it?
to, yeah, it's easy to not want to continue that process. And also, you have to have someone like that you're working for that is obviously they're taking care of their job, but they also have to
Be invested in
commit
your
to
development.
100%. They have to be committed to helping you improve all of that with like the other things in life outside of work. So it's tough. I think generally the field of for performance coaches do a pretty good job, I would say, of like consuming like continuing ed outside of work. Some of that's probably, you know, whether the stuff is good or bad material. Like I feel like that's a pretty like hounded thing into people when they first get into the field, is like to keep learning, which I think is really good. I don't know if that happens in other fields. Um but I mean, we've talked about this too, like how do you structure that? Some people will just kind of like read whatever book they're interested in. I think it could be useful to like break it up into certain,
Modules for
yeah, like
yourself.
target like say at the beginning of the year, like, all right, I really want to learn more about these like 2 to 3 topics. Like it doesn't need to be like 10 different things, but like, hey,
Hmm.
I'm gonna spend the first 3 to 4 months of my year and just kind of rabbit hole myself into this one specific topic, try to get a really good understanding of it, and then move on to the next one.
I think so. Again, like I think that's the hard part is like self implemented learning. You're gonna
Mhm.
gravitate towards things that you are
Are
just
comfortable with,
are comfortable with, are extremely interested in, or
which
things
I think
that
is
like
good. Like I think like curiosity is a good compass, if you
mhm.
will, for what you can learn because you'll be able to dive into it a little bit deeper. You're not going to be like, 'cause, I mean, isn't that kind of the whole point? Like you don't want to make a class for yourself that's super boring. Like you want to like be able to design, but the
Yeah,
part that's tough is like you need to actually like
self
the
audit.
all yeah the other thing that the other thing that's like underrated about like the conventional education is just like someone's like holding you accountable and you're also paying a lot of money for it.
So you have a personal
It's,
investment into the
yeah,
results.
it's tough to replicate that. Like especially like people pay a lot of money for school. Like school is getting very expensive. So that's the thing that's you're missing there is like that accountability. But you could have
Like
an
the
accountability
skin in the
partner, I
game.
suppose. Yeah, you need some skin in the game. I mean, whether that's
Yeah,
like an accountability like partner, as corny as that sounds, like I mean, we kind of do that on the
we
show.
kind of. I
Like
was gonna say,
yeah, we kind of do that on the show. Like we'll read this, like we've been doing the Bad Boys book club. We're accountable to like having the book read and having something ready to talk about by the time, you know, the date we set, or, you know, we talk about topics like we're supposed to be somewhat prepared, you know, with whatever free time we have. So I think that's one thing.
the other thing that I think that like when it comes to conventional education, and I keep marking like conventional education and what that looks like, right? When you're going through that, it's meant to be a long-term process. It's not a do this course and now you're an expert. You know what I mean? And in my belief is that your education after that, like it kind of sets up that aspect or that model for learning of, you need to make this one continuous education process versus, when everyone says continuing ed, it's like it is continuous education, not just do this one thing to do this one thing. My one problem with conventional education is there's a lot of times, like other than like say you have a 101 to 201 to 301, etc., kind of classes that build on top of each other. Most of the time, these classes are built as standoff one alones. So it's learn all the things you can, pass the test, move on to the next thing, learn all the things you can, pass the test. It's never, hey, and there's probably flaws within the system and there's things outside of our control that we can't contribute to, but there's never the we are going to pull from your physics class in your biomechanics class because you need to understand different types of forces because we're going to pull that in. They just teach you enough about, say, those types of forces in biomechanics to minutely understand and move on. It needs to be a very, I think the education system could move to a more complex system of intertwined learning for a better picture of what that degree may be. And I think that can help a little bit. My question to you is, there are really good lessons and stuff like that when it comes to college, post grad, whatever it may be. How do people still, we've met 1,000 people like this where they get through and they're still stupid. Like, how does that happen? They're still stupid. They're still lazy. They're still this. They still have this unrelenting amount of like hubris to where they think they deserve it all, and they don't have the skill sets, the knowledge to kind of like back this up and kind of show that, hey, I am ready to take on the next position. Like, we see it all the time in internships, and obviously ignorant, like, you're just young, like, people just know that there is, you can't always, Occam's razor, I think it's Occam's razor, can't attribute ill will when it could be ignorance, you know?
Yep.
But to a certain extent, how much of there is that where we've ran into people where they're kind of talking out of their ass and it's like, I should be this, I should be that. It's like, well, you haven't done anything, man. Like, you kind of have to eat your shit, just like everybody else does, to get in and show that like you are worthy of the W-2 when it comes to this.
Yeah. Earn your taxes. And I think the thing that's you have to know about that is it I feel like it never stops. And like, or at least like for me, I'm like thankful that I'm in a spot where like even when I did get the full-time job, it was like hopefully you're working with people and surrounded by people who are like better than you, that you feel like you still have to kind of like prove that. Like, obviously don't feel like a piece of shit about yourself, hopefully. But like feel like you still have something to prove, and like still like having people around you that are pushing you. I don't really know what the solution for like the hubris and the laziness is. I think it's hard to get on my high horse here. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know.
It's also tough to do one model and say like, this is how you fix it. It's got to be person to person.
And like, yeah, all I know is I don't like it. I have a hard time relating. That sounds so bad, but like, I mean,
there's a certain level of like knowing you're good, but also like everyone should have that healthy level of imposter syndrome of being like, I am not smart enough to be here. Like, I need to get better.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think also like this has been talked about at nauseum on whatever podcast or just in general, is like the type of like learning school teaches. Like, the goal is more to like pass a test and get the grade. People are more worried about getting the grade than actually like learning the material, and I think those are two different things. Like, from personal experience, like, and it's so, when you put deadlines, can be good and bad. When you put like a deadline on something, yes, it can like force you to like lock in and pay more attention, but sometimes like you just need, sometimes some people feel like they need a little bit more time to like really let that like information soak in. And like the busier you are outside of school, the tougher that is. That's also like, that's just my kind of 2 cents. But personally, I'm not a huge fan of like taking tests. I wouldn't say like I'm a horrible test taker, but I'm definitely not a great test taker. I like more, and I hate like lecture based classes. Like, I hate just being just coming to class to sit down and being talked at for an hour to an hour and a half. I do not find that like as a helpful form of learning. I think if there's like questioning in there, like my favorite classes at Simpson were Coach Schmidt's practicum classes, where it was like very practical. It was basically just like an open. There was there was definitely teaching involved, but it was more of like an open discussion. You know, a lot of hands-on stuff. I think that's probably the best way to teach it. And then at the end of the class, he gave you your grade, and you're not going to get a grade based on like, oh, like
I answered 10
you
questions correct.
yeah, you answered question. There was no like formal test. It was just like, all right, like,
I need
and
to see you invested in
two
the learning during this period.
right, and two people that are at different spots could get the same grade. It's not like, oh, this person's more experienced and he's more ready to be like an actual coach, and this person's not. It doesn't mean this person gets an A and this person gets a B minus. Those people could still both get an A, or maybe this person could even get a higher grade if they showed more improvement along the way, and you know, we're kind of invested in that learning. Unfortunately, that's not like, you can't do every class like that. And like, I know even at some, I had a professor. I took a few sports administration classes. That was my minor, and we had a professor who had previously taught at the University of Iowa, so big school. And like, I didn't know this, like they have to fail a certain amount of students per class. Like that's a rule. Like you have to,
Wait, really?
or supposedly that's what he said. He's like, yeah, like you have to. I don't know if that's like students
So
that
like, we
are. I
need
don't
that
know. If,
reoccurring subscription fee. Fail them, so they got to
yeah,
come
like
back.
that just like blew my mind. That just like freaking blew my mind.
That's
So
nuts.
yeah, it's, I don't know. It's you're memorizing for like a test, and people get. And I think it's really good to like strive. Like people want that, like, you know, perfect GPA, this and that. That's all fine and good, but like I think we we think that actually like learning the material and understanding versus just like doing well on a test can be two different things. That's why
There's,
cramming is a thing.
I was gonna say, there's also like the certain extent of two different things. Number one, when your whole goal is just to pass the test, you're going to forget or like purposely ignore like pertinent information for the overall picture because it's not a test question. You're going to want
Hmm.
just to ace that test. So you want to know everything that you need to know and really know those things to push you to the next thing versus having a full capable understanding. And like you had mentioned, taking a little bit more time to have a deeper understanding. The second being, you mentioned like the practicum, you know, shout out Sam, that guy's awesome. But like understanding that like most kids are probably going to learn a little bit better, especially if they're in this type of field, instead of being talked at a 500-person lecture hall, being able to have these true discussions, in a smaller, more intimate format to where you can foster growth. And even though this person's on page 1, this person's on page 500, they can both improve.
Hmm.
That's with the college model, like especially with like large universities, how much of these, when you're sitting in a 500-600-person lecture hall, how much are you really learning? Or are they just sitting in there, answer a couple of questions so they can watch YouTube videos while they're in the back?
100%.
You
Yeah,
know,
like I've never been like, we both went to pretty like small
small
schools,
schools.
which I think is like a benefit of being in a small school. It actually feels like you're closer to the teacher. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's because I mean, like when I took the CSCS, for example, like I had to block out all the other information I had learned and just like try to remember the stuff from the book, because it's like, those are kind of two different things. So kind of
Yeah.
case in point there. Like I wanted, like, my main goal was passing the test because I needed that to actually work. So it kind of forces you into that mindset of like passing the test. And this goes into like, I mean, ACTs, SATs for,
All of it.
yeah, it's all, we're very big on like testing and like ranking people by their test results, and I don't know if it's just the US, there's probably other countries the same, but like I'd be interested to see like how other to do a little research on how other countries like education systems are structured.
I would be interested as well, like just to understand that and be a little bit, is there pieces that can be improved in theirs, but also like what can we take from ours?
Hmm.
Because neither of the two are going to be perfect. But
Right.
like I the hardest part is how who's going to do that, who's going to implement the changes, and when they go to look at these other ones, are they looking for confirmation bias, or are they truly trying to look into these other routes of education and say, what do they do that's better than what we do? Why is it better? And how do we scale that into what ours is?
Yeah,
I don't know if that
100%.
happens enough in, like I said, conventional education. I keep saying that, but I don't know if that can happen enough. It's a
Yeah.
business, they want the money, and they don't care how they get it a lot of times, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm just not sure. Maybe that'll be another little research project.
Another research project. Here's how we fix the education system.
Yeah, give as if people haven't given their take on that, but that's okay.
Yeah. Huh.
Um,
But I guess confirmation bias, understanding that kind of breeds well to one of the other topics that we kind of had set forth today. You brought this one up, and great timing. Now that we both are a little bit more, I guess, not experienced but well versed on it from Think Again, but challenging your own thoughts and your own opinions and like the power of revisiting them. Like, talk to me. Like, what made you want to like put that down? Is for us to kind of chat today.
It was actually a situation at work, and I got to shout out Grant Vera, one of our S&C coaches. Shout out to you, Grant. He's going to be in South Bend for us this year. Great guy, really good coach. We were talking about I think someone had brought up like BFR. Have you ever seen those BFR like shirts?
Cuffs.
No,
Oh,
like the actual,
shirts.
yeah, like it's called like Hydro or like Hydro. They make shirts and like shorts that have the BFR built in, and you like just like adjust the. They're pretty expensive, but they are pretty sick. Like it's just the
Oh, those are
shirt.
neat. That's just crazy.
Yeah. So it's like we were talking about that. We are talking about BFR for whatever reason, and he kind of like gave like his take on like hypertrophy, and like I had been like the last time I like read about it, or like when I was reading like Brad Schoenfeld's work or like old school Renaissance periodization stuff, there was like the three things that help cause like muscle hypertrophy. It's like mechanical tension, metabolite, muscle damage, and then like metabolic stress. Those were like the three. And
Hmm.
then kind of like come to find out, Grant was like, yeah, like that's like debunked. Like mechanical tension's really the only one. And I was like, damn, like how many? And like he like actually showed us like a paper, like sent it to our group, and like that didn't like change my opinion on BFR. Like I still think BFR is good. Definitely made me think about it a little bit differently, but it just made me think like, damn, like how many, especially like in the field of science where stuff's changing all the time and we're like learning new things or like disproving, proving things. How many like ideas of like stuff that I thought like I had a good grasp on have like changed recently, and like how it's like important to revisit that stuff, whether it's in the literature or just like talking to people over time. Because like obviously it's something like that. It's not like all of a sudden they said like, all right, only do sets of 50 for hypertrophy or only do sets of 2 for hypertrophy. But it kind of opened like a discussion about like, oh, like mechanical tension is really like the main driver of hypertrophy from an exercise perspective. And it just kind of made me really think about like how many ideas that like I thought I had a good grasp on and why it's important to like revisit those, especially when it's something involved in like a science where like new research is continuously coming out. Um, I think that's another one too, is like people kind of tying into our last topic. People like finish with school and they like forget to like revisit some of those topics. Like we want to continuously learn new things because like novel things are more interesting to us. but I think it can be really like important to revisit some of that stuff because obviously like textbooks come out every like 5 years or so. They're mostly the same. There may be a few differences in there, but like some of that
Pretty
stuff,
similar.
yeah, but like you never know, like some of that stuff could be proved, disproved. And like this is obviously a very specific example, but I think it's important to return to those like things that you were like, especially the things that you feel like you're pretty sure on. I think those are things you should even come back to more. Whether it's like an argument over like, oh, this is the way I train because of this. It's real easy to like come up with a good reason in your head and then just kind of like stick with that and not think about it again. I think it's important to whether that's talking to people you know about it and like gathering more opinions or just like trying to think through it critically on your own. I think that's really important and it's just kind of a cool like thought experiment of how you can have the same like concept or idea and think about it in a very different way at different points of your career and different points of your life. So that
So
was my long-winded way. Shout out Grant Vera.
that's a really good idea, though. I think the one piece that just clicks on it is like revisiting the stuff that you feel like you might be. I know we hate the word expert, but
Yeah,
very
but like you
knowledgeable.
feel like you're well versed in. Yeah.
Yeah, you're very knowledgeable in, you know, because at a certain level you will become like, if you're very knowledgeable, you're always going to be looking for the next thing to expand the knowledge, not revisit the old information that you feel like you have a very good grasp on.
Mhm.
Whereas if you try to come back to the stuff that you have a very good grasp on, you can challenge something that you might expand it and become, you know, get closer towards that expert level of those pieces. And that's such a hard thing to do is, I think there was like, it was in like Mental Models Volume 1, it was like the circle of competency, where it's like the things
Yep.
you really know so much you don't know, the things you don't even know that you don't know. And so many people try to stick in their circle of competency. It's a really uncomfortable thing though to go back to that inner circle of competency and then say, this is actually smaller. And I'm going to try my best to get it bigger and grow it and grow it and grow it. Um, I think it's a very uncomfortable. It's not necessarily a lesson, but it's an uncomfortable thing to do. That much of the time, when you do it, you're not going to love what happens unless you love the feeling of truly learning and growing and experiencing more. That so many people just don't want to have to deal with, so they're not going to want to do the uncomfortable thing.
Right. I mean, it's especially that like I feel like I love like learning about like hypertrophy, but like I didn't like know that had kind of that like three-way model had kind of been disproved to only like mechanical tension being the most important thing. But like I'm glad that like he told me that because now it's like, well, like you have a more accurate. It is like you have to like kind of like it is a little bit humbling, but you also have to like realize you have a more like accurate worldview from that. I think it's a lot of it's also like the environment that you're in. Like if you're in a good environment where people are like, you definitely don't want to be in a spot where you're going to be criticized for being wrong. I think you want to be like more so criticized for not like striving to learn. But like most people, like I feel like I'm wrong about most things. I guess we're really all wrong. It's more of just like a spectrum of trying to be less wrong. Um,
Yeah,
you want to be in a good environment. We kind of talked about this and like when we did our book review is like people holding you accountable, but also feeling like psychologically like safe enough to be able to like make mistakes and like strive and like mess up.
that's like, I think that's a huge thing where everybody, and maybe it's just you know the the power of social media now, where everyone speaks in such absolutes that it kind of bleeds over into daily life, to where they almost become the idea itself versus an advocate for it, and and becoming this dogmatic ideator, when it comes to things where it's like it's black and white, it's yes or no. It's like, well, it's kind of right, but in this situation, it's probably wrong. And having the ability to just be okay, or like you said, like that psychological safety, to have somebody say that's actually like disproven, like in your situation, like I'm assuming he like didn't kind of come through and just kind of hit you with the actually you're an idiot, watch this. It was more so actually I actually found this. Here's the paper on it. It might be good for us all to read it. Having
Yeah.
that environment to be okay, to be disproven and grow the education base or that knowledge base. That's a big thing that I don't know if there's enough of out there, because everyone has a perception that the smarter you are, the more valuable you are, which in a lot of the cases is 100% true. However, I think being wise enough to understand that there's things that you don't know, or you can have those biases, and to try to fight them, that almost makes you appear smarter so you can have higher perceived value.
Mm.
Look at the people that we tend to look up to, whether it be coaches, whether it be athletes, whomever, all the thinkers. They're always those people who we always just see as they're so intelligent, so smart. Those people always kind of come through as like, this is I was wrong about this. They're not afraid of that. And the people who are very just dug their heels in, ingrained in those old beliefs, there's certain coaches out there when they first started, and it was a great thing, and now it became their shtick, and they're afraid to like go away from it. It's now a brand that they sell, and I think it hurts them and hurts their credibility and hurts the originating idea that came from it at the beginning. We don't need to throw stones, but like we've all seen those people as they come through, whether it be, the hang clean versus fucking jumps debate, or it's, you have to time every single sprint and you can't do aerobic development, or aerobic development is the only thing that you need to do, or don't train that hard because you got to let the sport do it, or give everything that the sport is and make it super specific versus not. Those arguments always come through versus just trying to accept that there's other ways. There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. 2 or 3 of them are probably a little bit better, but you should try and challenge your own ideas to get to that point and understand which ones are the better ones.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Like we've talked about, like people that speak in absolutes, like leaves no room for like questioning. It leaves no room. It doesn't really leave room for like a lot of growth. So
only a Sith deals in absolutes.
That's right, 100%. I love that.
Oh, let me pull our notes back up here.
Yeah. Got one more topic. I feel like it would be cool to kind of end on a fun one.
Yeah.
So we've done this with energy drinks. Obviously, we did our tier list. Oh, it was earlier this year. We did the tier list of just different types of energy drinks. There's a couple ways we could do this. We can just, I don't think we need to even like pull up like the tier. We did this with exercise equipment too, I believe.
We did.
But I think it'd be kind of cool to like rank our favorite movements, or like where we view them. We could either do this by, I feel like we could probably do this by movement pattern is probably the easiest way to do it. We could do it by muscle group too if we wanted to go meathead, but like, or we could just talk about like what are some movements that are going to be like a staple in your program throughout the year, or do you have staple movements, or are you always changing them? I don't know what way you want to go about this.
Should we kind of caveat this to being inside the weight room? Because I feel like,
yeah, I think we have to keep it to weight room.
Because if we go into field work, I mean, obviously,
no, the possibilities
sprint,
are
jump,
endless.
throw. We're gonna sprint. We're gonna bound. We're gonna jump. We're gonna throw the med ball. We're gonna do all that stuff. Like that's. If you're not doing that, you're behind the 8 ball. Let's consolidate it back to the more meathead stuff and have this conversation within those 4 walls.
Yes.
I think exercise, a tier list, like, or like those Excuse me, had a little burp on that. I got that root beer float coming out. I feel like a tier list is the way to go because neither of us are really like, this is my main movement. You know, we have like
Yeah.
these categories that we kind of cycle through. Um, I mean, we can kind of go. We'll go like, I think the best way to do it is to kind of go like squat or knee dominant push, kind of squat pattern, a hinge pattern, vertical pull, vertical push, horizontal pull, horizontal push, maybe a
Yep.
carry, like, and rank those within there.
Yeah, I'm down with that. We can start with the squat.
Yeah. True single
Okay.
leg squat. Pistol single leg squat.
That's your go-to for squat, single leg squat. I like the pistol. You're gonna go to that like that's like over every other squat pattern.
I think that's my like first one. Like we come into like a fall where we're in an off season, we're hitting that because I want to see true single leg movement, true single leg strength that will then translate over to the next thing. Now, I
Yeah.
think out of like a squat pattern, man, like a front squat may be king. That may be like the S tier.
Yeah, for me the S tier is between either front or back squat. I think you can go either way.
See, I put the back squat way lower.
Yeah, I know you would. I like the front squat. I think you can definitely like bias more upright torso and more knee flexion.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get as much absolute. You're not going to get as much absolute load, which is why I like the back squat. I also
Fair.
I like that it. People will say low back. I like that it stresses the low back. And I think if you have good technique, like you're not going to fuck your back up. There's obviously like inherent risk to everything. Those are going to be my like S tier. I like the front squat because it like teaches also like the front rack position, which opens you up for a lot of other like cool movements, whether that's like
Mm-hmm.
Olympic derivatives or just like different types of like front rack positions, like reverse lunges, split squats, stuff like that. I think there's also something to like people will say like I think a lot of times when people talk about axial loading, it's usually like negative connotations. I think like there has to be some sort of like positive adaptation you get from like just even having something
on your
heavy
back.
on your back. And that doesn't necessarily have to be with a barbell. That can be with like a safety bar too, if you're doing like safety bar squat. Which I think is another. I'm not a huge fan of just like a safety bar squat. I think it's a good way, like if you wanted to go back rack position, but keep more vertical.
Mm-hmm.
I think it can accomplish that. So back squat, front squat would probably be my S tier, or S tier, A tier.
I think my S tier, A tier is going to be front squat, split squat, back
Split
rack, split
squat.
squat though.
Mm,
Because if I want that, I want the pelvis position, but I can like we can have like a dispersion of the pressure and the forces on the body.
yeah,
We can get that like 65-35 split.
I would probably go. I'd probably go reverse lunge over split squat. I do like the back rack for the split squat or the reverse lunge. Simply like the reverse lunge more because I feel like you're gonna get a little bit more. I don't know. There's a debate back and forth. There's a debate back and forth on whether you're going to be able to overload like a back or front squat versus. But I like the dynamic movement of like just being able to like do the lunge versus just the split squat personally.
Let me change my answer then on this because I'm gonna go rear foot elevated split squat.
Oh,
Like a barbell, like
barbell Bulgarian essentially.
Yeah, like if we're hitting that, like I think a front squat and that will probably be my S tiers. Like rip a single leg pressure, knee over toe, vertical torso, whether it be hand supported or just a regular barbell. Like there's so like it's gonna give you DOMs, but man, that's gonna give you a requisite of strength.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can get that number high enough, every other number is gonna be super high.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I do like the rear foot elevated. Zercher squat is kind of sneaky for me. That one's like I would say it's like C.
It's
People
like a
can
C
load
tier.
it. People can load it really well. I think you get like a lot of more like you get a lot of like torso work out of it just because you're having to
Brace.
you're having to brace really hard. It's also a little bit different feel. Like it's obviously anterior load, but it's more like closer to your center of mass, which is kind of interesting. You can't really get I don't think you can get quite as low just because your elbows run into your legs a lot of the time. Um, I honestly like that for like a skater squat variation. That's probably my favorite skater squat variation is a Zercher skater squat. I like the
What's
dumbbell,
crazy?
the two dumbbell, but I think I like the Zercher a little bit better to be honest with you.
The 2 dumbbell is sick. I just shot a message over to Coop because I was like, I saw a couple of the guys in the Cubs facility hit the Zercher skater. I messaged him. And I was like, I'm stealing this
Yeah,
because I think that's sick.
yeah, I like it a little bit better.
The one that
The
I'll
Zercher skater squat can go.
what's our
It
like
actually works pretty well for a lateral lunge as well. To be honest with you,
you have the width. What is like our DF tier? I feel like, to be honest, most of the time, outside of like regressions or things like that, like a goblet squat, a goblet split squat, a goblet lateral lunge, those are going to kind of be my like DFs. Not
yeah,
because they're bad movements. You're just not loading it enough for it to truly be meaningful. It's going to be relegated to an accessory. And even then, I'll probably swap it for like a lunge matrix where I'm going to hit more volume and more three-dimensional patterns.
yeah. Anything goblet for me is down there. um,
Yeah. What about like a cyclist squat with like 2 dumbbells? I think that's like a firm C. Like it's a great prep. You're going to get a ton of DOMs, but you're not going to have a true chance to load it a ton. And it's going to be used for specific adaptation. It would be like that C, D.
yeah, it's similar for me. We didn't even go like machines too. I think we should just go free weights though. This is gonna get really like
We'll
grindy.
spiral if we go to machines.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I like the yeah. I'm not even
I
gonna
mean,
say it.
a pendulum squat.
Yeah, exactly. We don't. That's gonna get really hairy.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's another squat? You know what I'm kind of I don't like as much as I used to like is Hatfield squat variations. I think people use the upper body way too much and you don't know how much work the lower half is actually doing. I get it. It's cool because like you can really like truly overload, but
Yeah.
when does it turn into just
An upper body. Like you're just
a
pulling
lat
yourself.
pull down?
Yeah.
When does it come in? When does it? Well, how much? When does it become a lat pull down? Like, and this is I've done them before. Like I've done a hand like a Hatfield
Hmm.
skater with a safety bar with like I think like 300 pounds. I got up to it, and it's like I can't skater squat 300 pounds. Like I don't know how much of my legs were doing.
Oh,
Like yes, like
yeah,
on
like
the
how much of it
eccentric,
went from stability to pure assistance?
right? And then I've like Hatfield squatted 700 pounds. The most I've ever like actually back squatted is like 500.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's how much they're sick, like, but I feel like you can just use your upper body so much that you don't really know how much your lower half is
That
getting
it's
out of
almost
them.
being negated back to the same number as if you were just going to free squat it.
Yeah, I don't.
In some stances, yeah. I get you on that. I've worked away from it, especially with like they're also so finicky that if you don't have the right bar, like some of the bars are going to be wider, some of the bars are going to be more narrow, and depending on your population and who you're working with, like you can't put an ultra wide SSB on a female athlete with narrow shoulders or a
Yeah,
narrow ISA.
yeah. That's why it almost gets finicky. Like a safety bar, like squat can almost get like finicky. Some of them, like you have to know how to like.
You have to like lever it up as you go down, or
Yeah,
like
you
because
have
if
to
you pull
know
into
how to
yourself, you're falling
use.
forward.
Yeah, you really have to know how to use the bar. Um, yeah, I think
Yeah,
I'm just less. I don't like safety bars as much as I used to like them
I
because of
agree.
that reason and because of other reasons too. Like I feel like, but Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I guess let's move to hinge.
Yeah, let's move to hinge. I like that for squat. Hinge. For me, I think my S tier is gonna be like just a barbell RDL. I'm not gonna lie. I like a
I'm
good barbell RDL. It's tough to beat it.
I was gonna say a barbell RDL or a snatch grip RDL.
I love the
Those
snatch
two
grip too.
those two are that's my S tier. Like load that middle of the fucking muscle. Like large range of motion, tons of absolute load. Even if you go snatch grip, like you can get a ton of absolute load. And it's gonna pull that scaps back to like get more
Yep.
action through the hamstring, larger range of motion.
Yep.
It's hard, it's tough to beat.
Yep.
And the
Snatch
setup
grip.
is incredible.
Yeah. Snatch grip, good way to deload a regular RDL too.
Yeah. I um, I hate that I'm gonna say this, but like a glute bridge hip thrust is like my B tier. I think it's incredible. The setup is such a pain in the ass, especially on like a hip thrust where your back's on the bench. Like you're making 15 moves just to get the lift set up.
Was that my stomach? Did you hear that?
Yeah,
That was my stomach. Damn. Getting hungry. For me,
Flip that.
I feel like I hip thrust is another. It depends who you're working with. Like,
Yeah,
I feel like I used it a lot with female athletes because it was like something that they were like really
able to
into and were
load
willing.
heavy.
Yeah, and like they liked doing it. I hate the setup. The like I don't like that the range of motion usually isn't very much, but I guess like you're going for load over range of motion.
Correct.
I honestly, something that I've been liking more is just like and like guys like it more than I would have thought is like trap bar deadlifts are cool, but like I prefer like if a guy can do like a conventional deadlift well, I think you can get a lot out of that.
Or a
Um,
sumo.
Sumo, I like sumo too. Like I think that would be like it'd be S would be like barbell RDL, sumo and conventional probably the same with like A tier. I think. I mean, you just get like so much out of it. Obviously, like that
Load
everything
plus
posterior
actual
chain.
back,
Yeah,
hamstring, glute.
everything posterior chain. Um, that would probably
I've
be
like
my
I've moved away from a trap bar so much, except for like specific populations of like you just know they're like cross country is a great example. But even
yeah,
then, I'm turning that trap bar deadlift into more of a squat with a non-axial load,
yeah,
and I kind of want them to shrug at the top, so it's almost like a pull.
yeah.
Um,
I'm okay with the trap bar, but I know the trap bar is probably going to come out in season when you're feeling beat up. So like I like to use the conventional and the sumo as much as I can early on. Um,
I think the Olympic variations will probably be like a B tier for me, just with how much goes into them, the specifics that you have to kind of load them in order to be truthfully like beneficial. Like, I would probably place them there. Like they're fun, they look cool. Am I gonna really use them as a loaded hinge? Probably not. You know, is there other use cases for them? Maybe. Like it's just one of those things.
yeah, I like them probably around the same spot, but just because but I think they're really good as like a warm up for a heavier hinge, like
Yeah, you're
doing like
not using them
some.
as the thing.
Yeah, unless like I mean, if you can get guys like good enough at them where they can load them, like go ahead. I
Yeah.
like I think like different types of complexes, like clean complexes, are really good for one like warming up for like a heavier hinge. Two, if like someone does want to like eventually try to like Olympic lift, I think it's like a good way to just get a lot of reps under the bar, like lower intensities, obviously, and you can do that 2 to 3 times a week. If anything, it's a good warm
Warm
up,
up.
just getting some rhythm. So I like that. I'm trying to think of other hinges. Hinges I like.
Reverse.
Single leg hinges.
I like a
I feel
single
like
leg
I
RDL, but it's not as high on the list. It's not. It's you're loading at like 50%. Like
Yeah.
It's good.
You-
I'm a fan, but like I'm not going to keep it as the mainstay all the time to try and develop that.
yeah, it's definitely more of an accessory.
Hmm.
I know we're not doing machines, but if you ever rip single leg RDLs on a pitch arc, those kind of rip.
Those
You
rip
can load it a
hard.
lot more. Something I've been liking too is like everyone usually like if you go dumbbell like single leg RDL, you're either going
Ipsilateral,
hand.
contralateral,
Yeah,
or
I
hand
like switching
supported.
it up. Yeah, I like switching it up like one set contralateral, one set ipsilateral, like back and forth. I think that's something that like people most often are going to go contralateral, but I think doing ipsilateral is good from time to time. Hand supported is again how much is the hand doing the work. Um, I like going unsupported, two dumbbells preferably. Man, my stomach is bubbling today, boys. Belly boys today.
We can just go straight up. I know you got the grumblies. We'll go pulls and pushes instead of separating them. Pushes, I like an overhead stuff more than I like a traditional horizontal. Like I would probably say like a Civicus, a push press, or like a push jerk is probably like the two biggest ones, or like the three biggest ones. Like Civicus, push press, those are like my S tier.
I like a strict press, strict overhead press. Humble yourself.
See, that's why I like
Um,
the Civicus because it's like you're sitting on the ground, like take
yeah,
everything out, not a
that could go
chance.
either way for me. I like just military press. I do like the Z press. Um,
Bench is like a B tier. It's a mainstay. Everybody wants to do it, but like I can tell you from experience, there's probably far more risk than reward.
I like, yeah, I like. I think bench to me is still like an A tier. I don't know if it's just the meathead in me. I still think it's.
I think an incline bench is more of an A tier than a regular bench.
You think so for you?
Yeah,
Why incline more than a flat?
I you just you put less stress on the true pec and a massively like stretched aspect to it. And now there is, trust me, there's a ton of research that says mechanical tension, stress and full ROM, that's where you want to go. But I like the angles a little bit better. I like where the shoulder has to kind of like work through in that range of motion. A little bit lighter loading. Plus, like if you could incline bench press 225 over a bench press at 225, I think that's far more impressive.
It's fair. I still like it. I still like the flat more. Um, I'm trying to think of what other presses.
Meathead. I like a
Yep.
dip. I think a dip is underrated. I would probably put that like within an A tier, to be honest. Just from how much you can load it, the true range of motion you can hit, and it's the highest muscle activation through the pectoralis that you can hit. So it's
Yep.
likely, in my opinion, it's gonna be one of those like big ones.
Yeah. I also really like it. Like it's a good exercise to like see like shoulder function as well. Just like the shoulder has to like roll forward and backward in the socket. I think people don't do them because they think it's going to be bad for their shoulders. I feel like it's really the opposite. Like, um, this is the main thing for presses. Anything,
That's
I think anything overhead is good. I like you could really divvy them up into like just like static versus like explosive like pushes. Like if you want to go
a
jerks and push
jerk.
presses in a different category as like a strict press or a Z press. But I like all those. I'm definitely more. I think horizontal and vertical are both important, but like I really like, especially like I feel like overhead athletes like overhead pressing is underutilized and underrated. People think like it's you need to like go away from it. I think we need to do more of it. Like
Prepare
I
them
think like
for that.
yeah, I think it's I think like volleyball players, baseball players, anyone that's like a throwing athlete especially needs to do more overhead pressing and not just like half kneeling landmine presses and half kneeling single arm dumbbell presses. Like,
Or standing landmine presses.
yeah, probably never do those. Um, Probably a good core workout though, right? um, Pulls.
Pulls, chin up, pull up, weight the shit out of it. That's S tier. Those are the S tiers.
I agree. Um,
I think a Penlay
I,
row
I was
is
gonna say
like
a Penlay row or like an
that's like
actual
a
like legitimate bent over barbell row where you're actually getting your chest parallel to the floor.
yeah, like a
Um,
full ROM. That's an A tier.
yeah. Anything the pulling is simple. Like the pull up is easy because you get, full
Full
overhead
ROM.
pulling. You can weight it the most. Um, but yeah, I like the Penlay row for like the most overload, obviously. I like I like a true bent over barbell row where you can actually, people usually do it with their chest too far upward. But if you can get like literally like in that hinge position, like talk about like a secondary benefit of like maintaining that like
hmm
hinge is good. I like a heavy single arm dumbbell row too.
I'm a big
I,
fan
yeah, again, where you're getting like the chest parallel to the ground. I think there's like also like different ways you can do them. You can pull up more towards like the shoulder. You can pull more towards back towards the hip and get a little bit different things out of them.
you could get like
Um,
the massive eccentric like kind of shock drop.
yep. You go like croc row. It's like just a different variation there.
I think I think I would put the regular barbell bent over row as a B tier because of the mistakes that get made with it, and I would replace it in the A tier with a chest supported row or like a seal row. Seal row, obviously, you need specialty equipment, but a chest supported row, like you can't you're taking out that freaking that the ability to kind of mess that up
Yeah, I like a legit seal row or like
so
even like
much.
a Jimmy rigged one where you go like elevate the bench and go like dumbbell seal row. I like that more than like the incline chest supported row with the
Because you're
dumbbells just because
fighting
like
more gravity.
yeah, just the resistance profile is a little bit better. I had one more that I liked. Oh, I like a gorilla row where you're standing on a couple DC blocks, have some heavy dumbbells or kettlebells in the middle. You're pulling one at a time, or you can pull both at a time. Like I really like that. Um, like
Basically
there's a
half of a
lot
devil's
of
press.
yeah, exactly. Like I'm more likely to go to like unsupported versions than supported version because I feel like you can get a lot of like secondary and tertiary benefits out of like an unsupported just heavy pull, whether that's a Penlay, whether that's a just a bent over row, something like that.
Fair enough.
Yep. Ooh, another thing I like that people don't do, I don't see people doing a lot of pullover variations. That's a sneaky one, like a sneaky, like B tier, maybe even A tier. Just like you get the most, like I feel like you train the lat at length very well there, and there's a lot of cool different like variations you can do. You can do them off the bench. You can do like a little bit more complicated setup, but they're sick, like the javelin, like the thrower pullover, the vetter pullovers with a barbell. You can go med ball underneath the scap if you really have that range of motion. I'm a big
Just
fan of the
open
dumb.
it up.
Yeah, old school bodybuilding dumbbell pullovers.
Yeah. Big fan. We've done it a lot where we'll go to like, even if we just go like old school, like we've just grabbed plyo boxes and placed, because you can't incline it. We've just made a tall one, put chest over it, and done a full like roll the scaps, re-engage, and then do the pull the row. Like you want to talk about like any good pull variation, just old school bodybuilders, they're gonna find the best way to get high range of motion with a lot of load and
Mm-hmm.
make it mechanically hard at in any which way you want to like find halfway near full extension, near full contraction, whatever it may be. They're gonna
Yeah.
find it.
What's some pulls that you don't like? I don't like the single arm cable row not as
Don't
much.
I don't like a single arm cable row. I love a lat pull down. I don't like as much like I don't love like the 45-degree pulls. I like a straight vertical or straight horizontal. I think that's like kind of
Yep.
like the way to go. Um, use gravity to your advantage. I don't I don't mind a upright row. I just don't love it. I think there's other variations and like other, Cuban press may be more beneficial. Things like
I wouldn't
that.
even consider that like a row. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's called a row, but that's
It's really not.
it's really not.
There's not that many pulls where I'm like, ugh. Other than like just
Yeah.
using mechanically advantageous ones. I think that's wasteful. I don't love a landmine row, but I don't hate it. I think it's like
Yeah.
a solid BC, like more of like a C tier. Grip plays a factor if you have smaller hands for some of the people. But then again, it's like just use the dumbbell. Yeah.
Yeah, not a ton of pulls. Oh, you know an underrated one that I like? The old if you have again, I'm gonna use a fucking machine. If you have the assisted pull-up dip machine, single arm pull-ups, single
Yeah.
arm chin-ups,
Big
those are
fan.
really cool. Obviously, like it's better if you're just like one person, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a group, it's a little tough.
yeah. Should we go to carry and then wrap this bad boy up?
We should, because I have a piss that's begging to come out.
Yes, and you have a meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, my job. Carries. I like a sandbag carry. I don't know.
I was
I don't
gonna say
think
that.
there's not a lot of carries that I like over others. It's more just like cycle them through. Like it's
Go from a farmer's to a suitcase to a waiter's to a Statue of Liberty, and then get in there and get a sandbag. Just hold on to something and go with it.
yeah. There's not a lot. I don't know if I really rank those. I like a heavy farmer's carry. I like a heavy suitcase carry. I
Are
like
carries
an
just all
overhead
A tier and
carry.
above?
I guess so, yeah. I like an overhead carry, whether it's like usually like a kettlebell overhead carry, whether it's one
Yeah,
arm
where
or
you
two
gotta hold
arms.
it straight up.
Yep. Or even just like have the bell against you if you want to go heavier and go arm full extended. You can go here. Zercher carry with like a sandbag is cool. Regular carry with a sandbag, like just a bear hug.
Yeah, there just really isn't that many that I'm like,
Yeah, trap bar carry to really load it up. I'm trying to think of
As long
what
as you know
other.
what you're going for with the carry, you're gonna be good.
Yeah,
The
there's
only one
not
I
a
can
lot of.
say maybe is like if you're doing like a med ball carry, like above the head, like I'd rather just use a dumb. It's more of like the implement, but the movement
Yeah,
itself, I still like.
yeah. Mm,
I think that's the way to go.
yeah, carries are really kind of tough to hate on.
Yeah. Oh, the S tier, the Iron Cross one that the gym
Oh,
rats,
the
or
Jesus walks.
those are sick.
Yep, Jesus walks.
That's
Chains
S tier for
straight
sure.
out, arms fully extended. Got to get them in line with the shoulders.
S tier, 100%.
Yeah, those are high T.
Yeah. That's like you can't like. There's no knock on any of them. It's just like that one's like above and beyond. That one's just so sick.
Yeah. Barbell Zercher carries pretty high T. If you
Like a
have
Zercher
racks
march,
that are, yeah.
like a back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm with you on that. Or like a front rack carry.
Front rack carry, yeah. If you have the racks that are right across from each other, that's helpful.
Rack to rack, baby.
Yep.
I think that's
And
it.
that's it. We could go into way more detail, but yeah, I think that's a good
spot. I'm gonna go, and then I am literally about to pee my pants, so I'm gonna go, and then I'm gonna let you rank. Root beer float, second best root beer flavor out there. I think behind only the bum root beer flavor. Although the formula is a little bit bigger, obviously 16 ounces, which 16 ounces is probably going to come out of me here in a little bit. Formula is incredible. Great price point. Like Rise always does a really good job. I'm going to say 8.6 on the Rise root beer float.
That's really
Very
good.
solid.
Well, I'm gonna let you go to the bathroom while I rate this. I got the Gorilla Mind White Frost. Again, it's not my favorite Gorilla Mind flavor, but I think it did grow on me a little bit more since the last time I tried it. Again, my favorite flavor is probably still the strawberry candy. The black cherry vanilla is up there. So is the orange rush one is really good as well. You could tell they were kind of going for a white monster flavor. They didn't quite get it, but no one really does. I will say this is probably one of the better White Monster knockoffs. Definitely better than Ghost, in my opinion, but not as good as the OG, the Godfather. Formula is really good. I didn't have to pay for it, which is an added bonus. The can looks sick. It is a heat seal, which I don't like, but the logo is sick. Overall, I'm going to have to go an 8.3 on this guy. 8.3, really good. 8.3. And as always, folks, I don't know when Brian's going to be back. Went to the bathroom. Appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you do enjoy the videos. Subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you like to listen on. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Leave us a review. Helps us kind of get in the algorithm. BetBoys.com if you guys do want to buy either a shirt or a hat. Have some hoodies on there. We have trucker hats now as well. That's just BetBoys.com. You guys know our Instagrams, social media, BetBoys.tv. Past, future, present clips of episodes, along with our own Instagrams tagged in there. You can follow us both. Our personals, you know where to find us. All right. He's back. I just about closed this out. I gave this guy an 8.3. Pretty good. Flavor's good. Better than I would have probably ranked it the first time around. I think it does a good job. But yeah, 8.3. Definitely want to try that root beer. So, as I just said, gave them the spiel on where to find us. They already know, but appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate if you can walk too. Appreciate you guys watching, and we will see you guys next time.
Peace.